What is going on, everybody? Today is another day. Who would have thought? And today we are going to be rating Nintendo controllers. My criteria is objective truth, and that's it. So let's get right into it. We are starting off with the NES. Oh, so the NES is an interesting controller. Firstly, it is iconic, classic, beautiful. When you think old gaming, you think this controller, but it has an issue, and that is the inspiration for its design. I'm hoping you can figure out what that inspiration is. That's right. They got inspiration from the humble shape, the rectangle. Now, rectangles are not made for hands. They are made for shapes. So, here's an artist rendition of what holding one of these controllers would look like. As you see, that doesn't look very comfortable. That doesn't look like a fun time. It just doesn't fit. But still a very good controller. So my grade for this is a rectangle out of 10, which roughly translates to a C-. It's a passing grade, but as we see, Nintendo improves. They get better. Matter of fact, they get super with the SNES. Ooh. The SNES is an ingenious design. Look how colorful and beautiful it is. Whether you were in America or literally anywhere else, these are some good looking controllers. Yeah. So you see, the genius behind this design comes from this equation here. What if we took a rectangle and added two circles? What do you get? Happy hands. Way better to hold. It makes it so that this controller is very super. Oh, it's almost like it's in the name. So, if I wanted to put this on my grading scale here, this would be 8.5 happy fingers out of 10, which translates to a B. Way to go, Nintendo. Good job. Now we move on to the N64. Now, the N64 is also iconic. I mean, it even had cool colors. Look at that. That's cool. That's really cool. They don't make official controllers like that anymore. That looks epic. The only downside is, look at this design. What does this remind you of? Reminds me of a fork. Maybe a trident. Either way, you could tell that when Nintendo was designing this controller, they miscounted the amount of hands that people had and mistakenly counted to 3 instead of 2. This is the official grip of the N64 controller. Nasty. But even with that, it's still iconic. But man, they fumbled. How could you miscount how many hands people had? Putting this on the scale here, this is a 3-pronged controller out of 5, which translates to a D. Oh no, all you old heads are going to be so mad. This controller's too iconic to get a bad grade. Why would I do that? Bro, look at it. That's not a controller. That's a fork. Moving on to the GameCube. The Nintendo GameCube is an iconic controller. Look at that design. Beautiful. Amazing. It brings tears to the eyes on how amazing this controller is, and it is considered by many to be the Giga Chad of controllers. And let's look at this grip. That is a good grip. Oh man, that is a controller that was meant to be held. Now, of course, it does have a few flaws, with the C stick being pretty mid, and obviously this wasn't too standard by then, but would have loved to have a left bumper. I'm sure they'll add it in later. Oh wait, they did. Crazy. But when you look at this, you just think, man, that is a comfy controller, and that gets a big thumbs up from me. Grading this, hey, I forgot to put the animation in, so you know it's an A. What kind of thing would translate into an A? That's right, a GameCube controller out of 10. Absolutely iconic. Look at that. Brings smiles to everyone's faces. Such an amazing controller. Now we move on to the Wii. The Wii takes the idea of a rectangle, moves it on its side, adds a jacket, therefore makes it nice. This is a rectangle controller done right. And man, is it good. Now, it can get pretty slippery at times. That's why almost every time you play a game, it yells at you to put on a jacket. But it's just such a good controller. It's got all these accessories, which for the optimistic in us is super cool, and the pessimistic just sees it as DLC. I see it as a fun time. The issue is, of course, sometimes it's not the most comfortable. Look at that. Nintendo, what were you thinking? It can get a little tiring to hold after a while. Nunchuck's a little goofy, but it still feels super solid to hold in your hands. It is just a great controller, and is a controller that many people, including people who weren't gamers, became super familiar with. Putting that on my amazing objective scale, that is a promotional family, or that Nintendo would use in all their commercials showing off the Wii out of 10, which translates to a B+. Great grade, and a great controller too. So much fun to be had with this iconic classic of gaming. Next up is the Wii U. Now, to preface this, the Wii U really didn't introduce very many controllers. It introduced the gamepad. Really, that's it. But the Pro Controller, I'll lump into this because, as you can see, they're kind of very similar in how they were built. So we'll do both. So, look at this ad. This ad is aged horribly. An entirely new system that will change the way you experience entertainment. And change it did not. Nobody really cared. Nobody wanted this thing. You know, it's not a bad console, but nobody wanted this. And it made Nintendo very sad. They put their heart into this. They made the Wii again, just for you, and you didn't buy it. How dare you? Now, not really talking about the sales, we're talking about the controllers. Look at how comfy that is to hold. Holy. The gamepad is probably one of the most comfortable tablet type things ever. It's almost like it was meant to be used, to be held. It just fits so well in your hands. The bumpers take a little bit of a stretch to get to press, depending on how you hold it. If you hold it the way in that picture, it's a bit of a stretch to hit the bumpers, but usually you don't need them. It's Nintendo. And the Pro Controller, kind of goofy, but it kind of felt nice to have both little joysticks at the top. Nobody has ever done that. Nintendo kind of gave up on this after the Wii U. But it was kind of dope. I liked it. I mean, look at that. Just like these gloves, these controllers make your hands very comfy. Even though sales are booty, the gamepad, those controllers, big W. Putting this on the scale, we get 14 million units sold out of 10. And that roughly translates to an A-. Now, you might be wondering, that's a horrible sales number. How does that translate to an A-? And that's because you need to go to more schools so you can learn, because obviously you don't know anything. But it's a good console. Sure, it is a good console. But the controllers is what I'm talking about here. Good controllers. Very nice. Next up, we got the Nintendo Switch. Oh man. Look at those colors. This was a very colorful 8 years of gaming. Just look at that. Holy cow. You can mix and match and make so many beautiful or completely awful combinations. It fills you with ecstasy. Like, man, this is a colorful time to be a gamer. And it was fun for everyone, the whole family. Look at that. Look how much fun they're having only playing on half a controller and Toad hogging. It almost looks like Toad's hogging the Pro Controller all to himself. Maybe he's not, but that's what it looks like. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about the Joy-Cons, look at that posture. Look at that gaming posture. No longer do your two hands need to be close together. You can now lie down flat on your back with your arms by your sides and be a gamer. It has never been an easier time to be a legendary gamer. Now, of course, when you only have half a Joy-Con, horrible. It is very small, very uncomfortable. Look at that. Her left thumb, I'm assuming it's a her. Maybe it's a guy, but if he does, he should probably cut his fingernails a little bit. Look where his thumb, its thumb, their thumb, Thatch is naturally landing. It is landing on literal plastic. It is actually, yeah, I thought it was over the capture button, but it's not. Where's the joystick? In the freaking middle. Now I know that's kind of how they had to do it to make this Joy-Con system work. Horrible. It feels so bad to hold. And of course, we can't be talking about the Joy-Cons if we don't talk about its worst aspect, the build quality. These bad boys drift. They are built terribly. I have never seen more roughed up controllers in my life than going over to somebody's house or using someone else's Switch who they also let little kids use. Those things are busted. Those things are trashed. And of course, with the most notorious being Joy-Con drift. Nothing feels better than paying tons of money for a controller just for it to do what it wants to do. But all in all, it's a good time. As we see here, it's a Switchblade out of 10, aka a B-. And you see Super Mario was so excited to show it off that he didn't wait his turn. Next, and finally, we have Nintendo's newest concept, or newest console, a completely original concept known as the Nintendo Switch. This time, there's a number 2 next to it. Now, what we see here is these are basically Joy-Cons again, but of course, there's one big difference. Nintendo took a normal Joy-Con, gave it a super mushroom, and made it a Super Joy-Con, aka somewhat bigger. And when it comes to these kind of things, bigger is better, because I have big hands. Big hands don't like small controllers. And because this is bigger, yeah, nice, beautiful, fantastic. Now, of course, there is the big issue of the DLC button, a button that will do nothing in a few months unless you pay money. What a great design. I'm just so glad that Nintendo charges for a service that every other console offers for free. But that's okay. We're here to rate the controllers. And, of course, another potential downside is some people are already reporting drift. I've seen teardowns of the Switch 2. They use basically the identical mechanism that the Switch 1 uses for Joy-Cons, which means that most likely these Joy-Cons will also drift, but maybe Nintendo did a little bit better of a job, but I wouldn't count on it. Putting this on a grade, we got Cheeked Up DK waiting to see how these Joy-Cons will turn out. But that's not the grade. The grade is Switch 2 boycotters lining up to pre-order out of 10, and that translates to a B+, a little bit better than the normal Switch. And so that is all the Nintendo Joy-Cons and all of the completely factual and super objective grades. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Please like. If you don't like what you saw, please subscribe and like and keep your mouth shut because you're wrong. And I'll see y'all later. I promise I'll post again. I've just been busy. Bye-bye.